Well, with that, Abby, you had mentioned that, when you were talking about Earthspark, it's like, oh, Transformers is good. Transformers is still good. And the thing that's cool about Transformers as a franchise that I think is a little different than other legacy franchises, like Star Wars comes to mind, where it's kind of locked in one thing. Transformers is always about reinvention, rivaled only by Doctor Who or Power Rangers or Ninja Turtles to certainly to an extent. Um, we have yet another iteration of Transformers coming in time for the 40th anniversary. It feels like we just had a Transformers movie in Rise of the Beast, but less than a year after, or just over a year after, we have Transformers 1 coming out this September, which just feels crazy because I feel like Rise of the Beast is still kind of crystallized in my mind somewhere. We've still got Earthspark, our chat about animated. It's it's fascinating that there are so many different iterations and versions. But we wanted to spend some time talking about the trailer drop for Transformers 1, because a few folks have kind of asked us kind of what our take is, given kind of our unique viewpoint on TFA. But I guess just to kind of open up the floor, I mean, I guess before I bring in my big brain conspiracy theory, kind of what are our overall thoughts? Let's start with Michael Andrews.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm optimistic about all iterations of Transformers when I first see them. I try to be the hype guy for all new Transformers, but yeah, I think it looks cool. And I also felt comfortable, I guess, sharing this trailer with my coworkers and casual fans, because I found it was something that they would get excited about. And I think that's what's going to be great about Transformers 1 is it does sort of feel, I don't want to say reboot in a negative way, but it does sort of feel like a jumping on point for everyone all over again. And I think I'm really excited about that prospect of, I haven't felt that really since the 2007 live action movie, where all my friends got into it, regardless of whether or not they cared about Transformers. And I was getting, DMs and texts and people talking about, asking me my thoughts on it. And it was just so cool. And I guess if I can add one thing to it, I just watched, I was tweeting about this, but I just watched the Transformers Night episode of The Masked Singer.
Oh, sure.
And it was, I've never watched an episode of that show before, but it was all themed around the Transformers live action series. And just watching those people get so hyped and so pumped, that's their Optimus. That's their Bumblebee, right? They don't know that any other form of Transformers exists, but when they see that giant red semi-truck with the flames on the side come out, they are on their feet screaming. And I think Transformers 1 has the potential to do that again.
Absolutely. How about you, Abby? What were kind of some of your thoughts?
I love the trailer. I kind of got blindsided because I knew the trailer, I would see the promotional images for it.
Sure.
And then one day I woke up and they're like, yeah, the trailer's out. And I was like, oh, I was not paying attention.
Just a side note, I had the exact same thing happen. You'd think I'd know. Didn't see it coming at all.
Yeah. And I kind of agree where it seems like it could be a really good opening for newer fans. Because in a way, Transformers has always started at a certain point and then has backtracked to, oh, this was Optimus Prime before he was Optimus Prime. This is, it was always been kind of a backtrack. And this is interesting because it just starts. It's like, no, we'll start at the beginning. We'll start at the first time. And I think in a way, it almost makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people have been happy that we're seeing a Cybertron. As much as I always liked, the Transformers being on Earth, I do like that human Autobot interaction, which is controversial for some people.
Yeah,
yeah.
We are pro humans on the show.
Nice. But I did enjoy Cyberverse as well, which doesn't have a lot of time on Earth or doesn't have much human interaction. because they made the world so intriguing, and this Cybertron looks beautiful.
Mm.
And like on a like a technical level, like I think the aesthetic of the movie is very nice. It's not too bright, it's not too dark. They let people be colorful. And then yeah, the world building looks just purely amazing.
It's gorgeous. Yeah,
It
truly.
looks so cool. I mean, like I love a terraformed Cybertron that looks like a synthwave album. I'm here for that in a big bad way. Like, you know, as soon as I started seeing like, you know, lush greenery, but then like vibrant pinks, I'm just like I'm here for this. I got to experience the trailer a little differently than you guys. Like I woke up, literally woke up like the day the trailer dropped, about 5 minutes before the trailer actually dropped. I had seen something earlier where it's like, oh man, Transformers 1 is going to be the first trailer spot trailer drop from space. I don't know if you find from space, but basically they put up like a weather balloon that just basically kind of like roamed the countryside for an hour as it rised higher up above the earth. So by the time it actually got to trailer drop time, which somebody like miscalculated the time zones, because like I think it was supposed to drop at like 7 Central and it ended up dropping at like 7 Pacific or something like that, which is fine because that's right about the time I got up. But anyway, like I don't know about y'all, but like the first thing I do, it's a rotten habit, but like the first thing I do when I wake up is I grab my phone. So it's like I'm just like, you know, doom scrolling, and I see that like the countdown is still happening. There's like 4 minutes left on this, and I go to watch this thing from space and my phone freezes up. So I'm just like, and by the time I did more doom scrolling, the official Paramount channels had actually dropped the full trailer. So I watched it that way. And I was immediately taken by the animation style. It feels like the best of DreamWorks in a good way. Like, you know, it's got like in a very approachable, colorful, vibrant style that I think is appealing to all ages. And I like to use all ages as an inclusive term, not as a slur like a lot of other grumps do. But more than that, this movie is for kids. And I say that again with a welcoming tone, because much like Wu-Tang, Transformers is for the children. And I think 40 years on, I think starting with a origin story, because that's contemporary storytelling anymore. Everything is an origin story. So I'm not necessarily mad about that. I think that's the way to go. I know a lot of G1ers are kind of sour on the recontextualization of like, you know, Optimus and Megatron's first meeting and stuff. Like, I don't know how long it's been since y'all watched War Dawn, but like, it's fine. You know, like, so like a lot of folks are pointing to like the G1 origins, or even like the stuff they did in the IDW comics, which is all good. But the thing that none of those are is approachable for a younger audience. Like, I mean, I saw War Dawn when I was a kid, so I mean, so you know, kind of contradicting myself a little bit, but like, I like that. I like the tone of it, and I like that it's an inclusive cast. I love that Alita gets such a spotlight. Like, I think the you know, we talked about like that Earthspark clip. I think the other thing that gives the fandom the tingles is that Alita transformation sequence where it's like she's a motorcycle and then does like this bitchin' flip kick and then kicks up the rifle and starts like mowing Viacons down. I mean, that
and my Buzz Lightyear wings pop open and my jaw drops. Yeah, that was great.
It's
highlight for me.
So cool. But yeah, no, I think I'm eager to go watch it. I'm eager to go watch it with like younger members of my family. I might find some like nieces and nephews to take with me, which I didn't feel that compulsion for Rise of the Beast, like because I felt like that movie was more for me and mine. This is for the next generation, and I feel like 40 years on, that's something important for Transformers to do, and it's still in theme with constant reinvention, even if it is retconning some old origin stories. Who cares?
Yeah, I was wondering too as I watched it. I wonder if we're gonna have a generation of kids kind of having the sort of Anakin Darth Vader thing that they get out of Clone Wars, going to the original trilogy of I wonder if there's going to be some hearts broken when they find out what Megatron becomes.
I hope so. And I don't mean that because like heartache for the children, but no, it's like that is one of the beautiful things about the Clone Wars arc, is that there's a generation of kids who Anakin is a hero to. And he never was for me. He was always the crusty old white dude underneath the mask that was redeemed at the end of the saga. So like, because I even remember when they were announcing Clone Wars stuff, or even the prequels, I'm just like, why do you want to make this guy a good guy? That doesn't make any sense to me. But like, what I didn't see then that I certainly see now is that there's value in that, in having an entire generation to have their heroes, and to have it even more heartbreaking and heart-wrenching to see where they go. Like, it's sad that Anakin succumbs to the dark side and becomes Darth Vader. And from the very little that we gleaned from the trailer, it's going to be a heartbreaker once D16 brands the Decepticon badge onto himself. It's like, I think it's meant to be like a really tragic moment. Also, shout out to the voice cast. Like, I think everybody sounds great. Like, I like what Chris Hemsworth is doing with Orion. There are moments in the trailer where it does get downright Cullen-esque, though. Like, he's like, "We are one," and I'm like, I feel like he's really trying to put it in there. I get the feeling that's going to be like the closing line of the movie, like right before they smash cut to Lincoln Park or something. Like, I can imagine.
I can only hope.
Orion Pax, now formed as Optimus Prime, or even like an early version of Optimus Prime, like gives a very like 2007-esque end to the movie. He's like, and he like declares it. He's like, "My name is Optimus Prime, and I send this message to it." And again, we are one. Title drop, Lincoln Park, let's go. That kind of thing. I also especially like Brian Tyree Henry. Like, I think I really enjoy his performance in Atlanta. If you guys haven't seen that, he's also really good in the Spider-Verse movies. There is something that there's a one of his vocal affects, like he does this in Spider-Verse. Like, he's the master of the heavy sigh. Like, he has a very distinctive heavy sigh where it's like he uses like his entire face and mouth to punctuate it, where it's like, when I heard it in Spider-Verse, where he's just like, and it's like, I'm like, oh, that's from Atlanta. Oh my gosh, it's the same thing. I really hope we get one of those from D16. But like
a mega sigh, if you will.
I think so. I because like, it's nobody sells exasperated much like Miles Morales' dad. So I hope we get some of that. Scarlett Johansson sounds great as Alita. I think that is a terrific choice, leans some credibility. Now, I would also say, though, I'm not without criticism. I'm not super into Keegan-Michael Key's performances, B-127, the proto Bumblebee. I think it's a little try hard for my personal taste. I also think that this is a guy that should be in movie jail. Like, I saw Wonka last year, and I thought that performance was way too much also for my taste. So if I had anything negative to say about the trailer, it would be that. Like, and I don't know if we need to be doing some light swears talking about Badassatron in a kids focused movie. Like, what's the rating on this going to be? Is it going to be PG? Is it going to be PG-13? If it's going to be PG-13, are we going to start dropping S-bombs? Are people going to start saying shit like they do in Marvel movies? I don't know. It's like that was one thing that kind of off put me just a little bit of like, maybe this isn't as kid friendly, family friendly as maybe I had initially thought.
Sure. I can see that. I would have said the same thing 6 months ago. I was not the biggest Keegan Michael Key fan, but then I saw the Apple show. Oh gosh, sorry, it's escaping me. Schmid. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
No.
I have to cut all this out.
No, you'll find it, and then I'll cut it there.
Yeah. Schmigadoon. It's an Apple TV show. It's sort of like a play on, old 50s musical movies. It's sort of this surreal fantasy comedy. It's a Lorne Michaels produced thing, and he plays a very like reserved version of himself for how big, and it's a musical, like it's a comedy musical. And he could go way over the top, and he doesn't. He actually plays like kind of the straight man of the whole thing. So now that I've seen kind of his acting chops, I'm excited for his take on Bumblebee. And I'll also add, I busted a gut at the end of that trailer when the whole thing where he like sliced up that room and then he like threatens the guards. I was laughing so hard at that. I was like, all right, we're home.
Yeah. I would almost say for Alita and Bee, their voice direction kind of reminds me of Earthspark in a bit, especially Alita. Like when I saw that, I was like, this kind of almost feels like Earthspark Alita, which she hasn't been in much, I guess. But that's what I got. And then it kind of, the voice direction of Bee is similar. And again, I think it's going to take some getting used to.
Yeah.
Again, when I saw Chris Hemsworth, I got scared because I just hadn't heard his voice acting. I was very impressed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people are interested in, Brian Tyree Henry's more serious tone that he might, if we get to a Megatron in this movie. That's the interesting thing about this movie. I don't know how it's going to end.
Right.
Because I don't know where in the plot line they're wanting to cut it, or if they're wanting to make it, like a trilogy or something.
Truly.
Because we do get that one cut of Megatron, but is that something that happens in the future, or are we going to get to that at the end of the movie? It's kind of an interesting thought.
Yeah, or is it even like a Mortis kind of premonition from, Vector Sigma or something, and they don't even know what it means to them? Like that might not be like actual footage.
True.
Like a flash forward.
Yeah.
Like like when in like the Netflix War for Cybertron, like you see like Nemesis Prime, that kind of thing. It's like it's a flash, it's a vision. Or even like when you first see Galvatron, it's a flash, that kind of thing. So so you see Megatron's eyes, and you see the brand of the Decepticon badge, and I love that's we're keeping with that heavy metal theme, that like a Decepticon badge is something that's branded onto you as opposed to etched on, like say like an Autobot badge. But like, I think you guys could be spot on that, like maybe these are flash forwards, and maybe these characters don't end up where we think, and that would be kind of a subversion of expectations as well. I think I think that would be very interesting. We had talked a little bit about where we think the movie is going to end, and I think now's as good a time as any for my a crackpot theory, which I don't know if I truly believe this, but I think I want to throw this out there for the sake of it.
You want to stir the crackpot, as it
were. for the lulls, as they say. But like, in the trailer, you see a number of blink and you miss it cameos, including like Starscream and Shockwave and Soundwave, looking boxy as ever. I like that. Where Earthspark Soundwave was rocking that divorced dad body, we're just back to boxy dad bod Soundwave. All leg though. It's like the legs never end on this dude. But also you see a silhouette of a spider lady. And when I was watching this on my phone, my phone is relatively small, for watching a trailer, and I was still rubbing the sleep out of my eyes. So I saw the terraformed planet, and I saw a spider lady, and I saw two dudes, one of which is Optimus Prime, being buddies. And I took a screen grab of the spider lady emerging from the from a pink synthwave cloud, and I just tweeted something to the effect from the Two Mics account saying like, "Wait a sec, well, hang on, young Optimus, young Alita, organic planet, spider lady." And I'm like, no, they wouldn't. They wouldn't, would they? And that kind of caught medium fire a lot. It's like, wait a second. But there is a part of me that I don't know if I want this, but there's a part of me that thinks that could happen, because you need to have something to have that division between Orion and D16. And in this one, maybe Megatron plays the Sentinel role. Incidentally, I think Sentinel's in this movie. Like, he's getting hassled by some Quintessons. There's a very blue dude with a very large chin getting handled by some very squiddy looking Quintessons at one point. I don't know if things are going to go good for your dude, Michael Andrews. Sorry. But anyway, it's like, so I thought for a quick second, if it's an aspect of the Along Came a Spider story where it's like maybe something happens to Alita, maybe, and not even realizing that the organic planet is Cybertron itself, and also not realizing that this is very likely Arachnid and not Black Arachnia. But
I would say Abbey and I, as Transformers Prime watchers, probably clocked Arachnid right away.
Right, yeah. Whereas I just see Spider Lady, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Oh, wait a sec. There's a different Spider Lady with a very similar name. But anyway, I just thought I would toss that out there as a just a bizarre observation. Like, maybe there is aspect of the Along Came a Spider story where, again, hopefully, I hope that doesn't happen, because I already like this version of Alita, and I would really prefer nothing like that happens.
Yeah, I think right. Well, I would say regardless of how crackpot your theory is or not, I think there is definitely some connective DNA here with Along Came a Spider episode of Transformers Animated, because those visuals and just the organic nature and even the setup of, outside of the fact that Bumblebee's there, that setup, it's like, we've seen that. That was for a Transformers Animated fan, that was built in already.
Yeah.
And I think somebody had even said, like, pointing to the way the trailer opens with Orion and D16 in trouble, basically. And it's like, that's how they get in trouble. And I'm just like, no, stop it. Don't encourage me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, yeah, because something would have to cause that rift. And we've seen within the context of Transformers Animated, from what we've seen so far, is that's driven a wedge between Optimus and Sentinel. Now, Sentinel hasn't gone on to, found his own robot revolution and do some light genocide, but still,
yeah,
scholar, but
yeah. I do think one more thing on that too. I really think it's interesting that Optimus in Transformers 1 almost comes off like the Sentinel of Along Came a Spider, right? Like, we're seeing a little twist on sort of Megatron is the straight man here, and Optimus wants to get in trouble a little bit. Whereas in Along Came a Spider, Optimus was the goody good and was, reluctantly dragged along. It was there for history purposes, and we should get back to our studies.
guess the big question is does Alita 1 survive this movie? Because she has a kind of a bad track record.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, we'll see. Our pal Lita's probably on the edge of her seat already.
Absolutely. And I hope this is the one that breaks the trend. And so to kind of cap off a little bit, something Abby you had mentioned earlier, like kind of it feeling similar to Earthspark. And I wonder, the big question is what continuity does this walk up to? Does this walk up to any continuity? Is it something new? Like there was something in my head that rang that like this very well could butt up against Earthspark from a certain point of view in terms of like the way that these characters are, because we've seen a few things. I mean, I think the biggest clue for me is Alita, because that's almost the same character, and like you had said, Abby, also, it's like there's a little tether to Keegan-Michael Key's B-127 to Danny Pudi's Bumblebee. Like, I really like that iteration of Bumblebee because it feels like it's G1B grown up,
yes.
or even TFAB to an extent. Like, it feels like adult Bumblebee, where it's like, he's cheerful and earnest, but he's also seen some shit. And he's
Yes.
grown up and he's an adult now. And I really like that character trait. But also in Megatron, like, if you have a ghost friendly Megatron, does that call back to the friendship that they had when they were young? That could be interesting as well. So yeah, a lot of narrative taffy to chew on. I don't think it can or will butt up against G1, because quite frankly, they already have an origin. So this has got to be something different than G1, and I think that's just fine. I've been seeing a lot of discourse out of like G1er spaces that I'm sure you could all predict that people are not happy, saying like, it's a spit in the face, a slap in the face, a slap in the spit in the face of the fans. It's like, ew, too many face analogies for my taking. Gross. But like, I don't know. It's like, I don't want to see the same stuff. Like, I've seen the same stuff. Like, I'm going to go to a movie theater in the middle of May to watch More Than Meets the Eye parts 1, 2, and 3. It's like that's, nobody's taking away that media from me. So it's like, let's have something different. Like, do you really want to have like a rehash of like the IDW comics? That's what makes the comics special. It's something different. I don't know. Like, I don't entirely understand the conservative mentality of let's have everything just be the same.
I agree. I'm also a slight like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan, and they get the exact same thing where it's a little less iterations.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, the new movie came out last year and there was so much backlash, and it was a great movie. And I think everyone who watched it had a pretty good time. And there was like a 2018 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that is one of my favorites because it's animated wonderfully, but so many people dismissed it because it was new and it wasn't what they were used to. And I always feel just awful for new media that comes out in a series that's trying to do a new thing. Which thankfully in a lot of spaces, I think in Transformers, there have been people who are like, TF1 looks awesome, it's doing a new thing. And maybe that's just what I try to be in for the most part.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna step away. But yeah, it is always disheartening to see people being like, oh, this is gonna be bad, I already know it. It's like, you watched 2 minutes of it in a trailer.
Yeah, and I think to add my third kind of related take, if anyone's been following my Twitter lately, I've been really on a rant about this, of just like this weird world where it's become journalism to just hate on something the minute it comes out and just destroy it and rip it apart. And it's so sad that like that's better that's better for clicks and ratings in the algorithm to just have this like horribly, negative take on something. And I just think that's like tearing us apart here as a society.
Yeah. And on like a production level too, that can impact like how many seasons a series gets, because kind of going away from Transformers,
We never
watched
do that here on this show.
no. I watched it's Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which aired in 2018, and it got extreme backlash before it even came out, and it ended up getting cut heavily short because many people didn't give it a chance. And now that we're a couple years out, there's so many people who have come out and being like, I didn't give this show a chance. I'm so sorry, because it's, again, people who are YouTube content creators who initially were like, yeah, it's not worth my time, and then them coming back out and they'd be like, I was wrong and I am sorry.
Yeah,
It's nice for them
absolutely.
to admit, but it's like, yeah, you can usher people away by giving them bad publicity, and it can affect how a show or a movie turns out in retrospect, which
Yeah,
was really
absolutely.
scary.
Yeah. Well, and we've seen that with responses to other Transformers media. Like I feel like, as beloved as it is, I feel like Transformers Prime is a response to the backlash against Transformers Animated in a way.
Yeah, I could see that.
Mhm.
And
And
you know,
then ironically, it went too dark for kids programming and then got cut short a little bit. I mean, sure, there was like budget constraints too, but at some point in season 3 of Transformers Prime, like it was just adults watching, and it was like dark, heavy topics, and yeah,
too much. I mean, like, we've talked about what the future of this podcast is, and Prime has been tossed out there, and quite frankly, I mean, I know it's good, but I don't like, for this level of analyzation, it just doesn't appeal to me, because quite frankly, it's not very fun. So, but that's
well,
shots
false.
fired at
But
I agree, and some people get really mad, but I will say sometimes Prime fans are very similar to G1 fans in the sense that it has to be that way. And anything that deviates, because I hear a bunch of stuff with Earthspark all the time. It's like, this Megatron isn't Prime Megatron. I'm like, yeah, he's not meant to be. They're
oh
different
man,
characters.
Abby, you're blowing my friggin' mind right now,
I'm
because
so
I
sorry.
as no, but in a good way, because like I think I've been sort of like I'm sort of like an anti G1er a little bit, even though I am one technically. I've always kind of been that mentality, but I never thought of myself as like this primer, I guess, if I can coin a new phrase, of
sure.
like I always compare everything to TF Prime. I even did it with Transformers 1. Someone was talking about Earthspark in relation to Transformers 1 and how good the animation fight scene. I was like, yeah, but it's still no Transformers Prime, and it probably is. It's probably better, but I think I'm hanging on to Transformers Prime in the way that G1ers are hanging on to G1.
Yeah.
And I think you've just awoken something inside me that I need to analyze here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's fair to have like something you base things off of, because again, like if you think about it, like everything goes back to G1. That was the originator. And for a lot of the Transformers audience who got introduced to the movies, Transformers Prime was the first thing remotely close to that in a series. So that was a lot of people's first introductions as well. And so obviously you're going to latch on to your first introduction. I do it with animated, and I catch myself sometimes where I'm like, it's not fun enough. It's not but I'm
Yeah.
like, well, it's different. It's totally different. And I think it's okay for people to have reference points. But when every criticism is, it's not this specific series, it gets a little graining.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, and the thing to always keep in mind, and this was kind of what I was alluding to earlier with Transformers and its 40-year history, is that with every iteration, some iteration is somebody's G1. Something is somebody's first step into the franchise, and I'm excited that Transformers 1 is potentially a entire generation's first introduction to these characters. I think that's I think that's great.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's just me. Shall we talk about an episode?
We should probably get to that. I'm going to clap the clapboard here really